First thing I'm going to go over is recoil control, because that is obviously one of the most important things in a gunfight, is being able to hit your targets and not to fly over them and waste a mag. The first thing I'm going to go over I like to call rapid fire bursting. It's basically shooting a gun in short but very quick bursts in order to control the rise of a gun. It also has the benefit of making it easier to track fast moving targets, or targets that really have good movement, like they're able to dodge your bullets really well. If you're bursting, it means that you're not going full auto, so in between bursts you can adjust your aim more to get on track with the target, so it means less wasted bullets. Because if you go full auto with a mag of like 24, but they're moving around really quickly and you miss 13 of them, well, now you got to reload and it puts you in a bad position. But if you're burst firing, you're going through the mag a little bit slower, but it gives you the opportunity to track your target better as they're jumping around and waste less of your mag. Alright, I'm going to stop talking for a second and just show you a few clips of it, just so you could hear in the audio that it is in fact burst fire, and it gives you an idea of the timing. So yeah, that was my best attempt at showing it. Most of the clips that I've included till now were using that burst to some extent. It's not like a science, it's not like you're bursting the entire way. Usually do like a couple of bursts and then slide into full auto when you have the target completely tracked. Usually it starts off with a couple of bursts, but sometimes it's multiple bursts in some of those clips. And yeah, the bursts are so quick in some of the clips that it's really hard to show that there is in fact bursting and I'm not just going full auto. But yeah, just play around with it for yourself. It really depends on the situation. Sometimes you want to go full auto. Usually for long range targets, bursting is a good idea, as well as targets that have really fast movement and are hard to hit. Also, don't try to burst fire with the Havoc. It just doesn't work very well at all because of the charge up time. I found that Devotion, surprisingly, you can burst fire with just a little bit, but again, it's not really a good idea given the nature of the wind up time on those guns. Next thing I'm going to cover are callouts, and I'm talking about callouts beyond just he's one shot or there's people over there. Try to convey as much information as possible to your teammates to paint a better picture of how the battle is going and what's changed as the battle has gone on. One thing my teams always do is call out how much damage they've done to a certain character. Another useful piece of info is their shield type after you call out the damage. So you would say 136 on Bangalore, white shields. This lets your team know that she only has 15 health left and that she's an easy target even if she heals up. Knowing the exact number is actually really helpful versus just knowing that their shields are broken if you've done well over 100. So for example, if you did 150 on Gibraltar and you call out purple shield, then that lets your team know that even if they catch him popping a shield battery and they catch him after he's already popped it, he only has 50 health because he hasn't had a chance to get his syringes off. So it lets them know he only has 150 health, which is basically white shield level, so he's an easy target at that point. Of course, if you only do enough damage to crack their shields or almost crack their shields, then just call out Gibraltar cracked shields, and that lets your teammates know right away he's got 100 health. Also include info about what kind of throwables you've hit them with, like if they're in your thermite grenade or if you hit them with your arc star, because that means that those characters are now stunned and they can't aim properly or see properly. I should mention this too, calling out he's one shot is useful still, but you should only ever call it out if the character has about 50 health or less. And on the topic of damage, make sure that you call out how much damage has been done to you. Just in this, like, not the exact number, but just like let your teammates know that your shields are cracked and you need to pull back to heal. This lets them know that you're no longer active in the battle and that they maybe need to cover you or that they need to pull back themselves. During a battle, try to give out as much positional information as you can. Like if you hear footsteps above you, like you're in a 2-story house, call that out. Or if you see Bangalore running into another house, call that out, ping it. Just give your teammates as much of a picture of where everyone is, because the map, you know, it only shows your locations, doesn't show the enemy locations. So the more info you call out to your teammates, the more they'll know where everybody's at so that they don't end up with someone behind them. A vital call out is when another team has entered the battle. Even if you're wrong, it's still not a bad thing to call out if you suspect that there's a third party has started to enter. The sooner your team knows that there's 6 people they're dealing with, not just 3, the better. Now, I could go on about all the different callouts you could make, but this is going to really drag on if I do, and there's honestly so many possibilities for things you can call out. So just get in the habit of calling out information to your teammates. You know, someone calls a Gibraltar ult on you, call that out. You hear footsteps nearby, call that out. You see someone in the distance or you think you saw someone, call it out. Just always try to relay as much information as possible to your team, and it'll give you a way better chance of surviving each battle that you get thrown into. Here's a clip of proper communication during a bad situation. If you like, skip ahead. It's about 47 seconds long. Oh crap.
Knock another one.
Another team's coming. Alright.
Right, heavy ammo. I need that guy's box.
I can drop you from my roommate.
Alright, yeah, I'm okay with how much you got.
Alright.
0, so. Falling back.
Alright,
Oh,
I'm
right
at
there.
69.
Broke the choke completely.
Oh,
We have the holy hand grenade. Yes, of course. The holy hand grenade of Antioch.
so for number 3, I'm going to cover throwables. These are incredibly useful and something that I didn't quite understand when I started the game. But as I've played more and more, I've realized that having a supply of these is absolutely crucial to any battle. These can be used offensively or defensively. As you'll see from these clips, one of my favorite grenades are thermites. One of my favorite things about it is that it explodes immediately on impact versus the arc star and grenade, which have a timer. It does tend to do less damage, but if you light someone on fire, it obscures their vision and slows them down a lot. And it just kind of scares them, freaks them out in general. Sometimes they'll run through your thermite rather than away from it. Arc stars are great too for clearing rooms. If you throw an arc star in the middle of a room, it has a really big blast radius and people will run out of the room, so you can like basically smoke people out of houses. A huge plus for thermites is it goes through doors. So one thing I do is when someone tries to block me and heal up behind a door, I'll toss a thermite behind the door and it'll cook them through the door as well as break the door, giving me a view of them and letting me gun them down. When I have a level 2 backpack, I carry 2 throwables, and once I get to a level 3 backpack, I try to carry 4 throwables, or more if I have guns that don't use a lot of ammo. Throwables are also great for covering retreats. Like if you know there's like 2 teams on either side of you and you got to get out of that area, if you huck a bunch of throwables at one of the teams that's the immediate threat, it'll obscure their vision and slow them down so they can't push you as hard. Anyway, this is hitting the 10-minute mark, so I think it's a good time to wrap this video up. I hope you take away something from this video, and I'll see you on the battlefield.
Oh my god. What do you mean, bro? This is dangerous. Oh my. Why are you doing that?